This is August 1961, and the place Manuel Island in Malta. And a team from the East Lancashire Sub-Aqua Club are off with friends from the Royal Navy in one of their motorboats to Xlendi Bay. A Sunday morning, and a pleasure to leave the rather maddening, thronged, noisy streets of Malta. Sun-tone lotion was required in a temperature of 90 Fahrenheit. For we were going off to a Roman wreck lying in 200 feet of water at Xlendi Bay in Gozo. For on the 10th of June, earlier in the year, Lieutenant Martin and a team of divers from the Royal Navy discovered this wreck, and since then the Royal Navy had been making a survey and bringing the various specimens to the surface. And now this controlled party were off to see this famous thing for themselves. Lieutenant Commander Dowland in charge of the party. There's Header Ray and family. And beyond her husband, Lieutenant Ray. We're now just approaching the island of Gozo. Wignall preparing his 16mm underwater camera. It's a wonderful spot just here, where the cliffs rise sheer from the seabed 200 feet below. And it's here 2,000 years ago that the Phoenicians and Romans came here and used the small bays along Gozo as a haven to shelter from the storm. By degrees, the 16mm camera is placed in its underwater housing. Joining us this day were members from the Royal Air Force Sub-Aqua Club. There's Jacques and Roger, two divers from the French Navy. And now here we are just arriving at Xlendi Bay, just in fact over the wreck itself. Well, there's the map showing where we'd come, across from Malta, Xlendi Bay, a little pear-shaped, and the wreck just at the mouth, at the cross. And there she is, just at the mouth. Quite a number of things, and of course a little reminder of notices too, as you'll gather from this one. You'll notice one of the amphora on the right of the picture there. Our plan was to team up at the little bay of Xlendi and then row out to the diving spot. Ray supervising the routine. Here a few of the Navy boys going down. That's Petty Officer Brown, known as Ginger, Phil Davis, a very careful planned routine had to be adopted here, as we were more or less diving to the limit of the aqua lung, in this case to a depth of 200 feet, for any safety. Sidney Wignall getting those surface shots, and down below for those other exciting ones. You can see quite an armada of boats had collected to view the spectacle and film. But like any diving, first of all, a stomach, and a diver does think of his stomach a little, and to get anybody down, diving was of course important. The Maltese are ideal for fishing, and Joe Grech was selected to get our lunch. Not very sporting spearfishing with an aqualung, but permissible when one's wanted for the pot. Maltese have a very keen eye for fishing. It's quite profitable in Malta, and in the World Spearfishing Championships in recent years have come third and fourth. That's a grouper, although rather small in this case. With the system of food completed, the Royal Navy stepped in and decided that the best way to explore the wreck was to use their scooter, a Rebecroft, costing the Royal Navy just a cool £2,500. It is in fact a flying machine, controlled by the feet. There's a colleague of mine, Mike Edmonds. And now diving had begun in earnest. With the aqualung divers going down in parties of 4, they had selected the jars and placed them in small piles for the standard diver to bring up in the basket and carrying them himself. This in fact was the marriage, and a happy one too, of the standard and aqualung diver, using all the facilities available to the Royal Navy at Malta. And so others are ready, with more standard divers going down, into the gloom, to uncover in the 20th century a wreck dating back to the reign of Hadrian, 2,000 years ago, for man to see for the first time. No, this is not a little gossip corner. This is in fact decompression. For at these great depths of 200 feet, a careful table of decompression had to be followed. Our time from the surface to the time we were to start the ascent from the bottom was 10 minutes, then 5 minutes at 20 feet, and a further 5 at 10 feet to reach the surface. A rather laborious way to bring up one of the jars, but at least the standard diver is pulled up. Generally, the aqualung divers went down in teams of 4 and then paired off. Another method was to bring the jars up in this inflated bag. Notice here how the standard diver goes down feet first. Cameras well and truly now in action. In the shallower depths of 100 feet or so, the team could find small fragments of broken pottery wedged in the small cliffs. The shelf went off steeply from 100 feet right down to 200 and then leveled off to a sandy bottom. Tigerfish and very curious. At Xlendi, through caves, only by underwater was it possible to discover new terrain, and coming up in a completely different part of Gozo, and there the cave mouth. Well, at least we've returned to the surface with some film. For the spectators, it was always a question of whether it was pottery or fish. Large jars, of course, were taken to the various museums in Malta. These were just a few fragments that I personally brought home with me. This is a small base of one of the amphora jars, and there is just a handle and a few of the very attractive shells that one can find around the wreck and in Malta. My most treasured find was this anchor stock. Solid lead, and as you'll see, heavy, the way Pete nearly drops it. So we are left with a final plunge.